President Trump matches his highest ever favorability rating in the deep blue Democratic state of New York, according to a new poll by Siena Research. Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. Today, as I mentioned, I'm going over a poll in a New York Post article that talks about the poll that shows President Trump's approval rating in the Democratic state of New York is the highest it has ever been. Trump's approval rating in the Empire State climbed to 41% in the latest Siena College poll released on Monday, matching his highest ever in the survey's history. The last time the Republican president recorded a favorability rating that high in his mainly Democratic home state was the month before he took office for the first time in December 2016. Trump's approval rating in New York has been buoyed by his tough on immigration stance, with a whopping 79% of voters in the survey supporting his effort to deport illegal immigrants living in the U.S. who have been convicted of a crime. A majority, 54%, also believe Trump will do, quote, an excellent or good job securing the country's borders. President Trump has not been popular in his former home state for more than a decade, and while that is still true, Trump now has his best favorability rating, 41% to 56%, since the month before he took office the first time in December 2016, when his favorability rating was 41% to 53%, Siena's pollster Stephen Greenberg said of the results. Currently, Republicans view him favorably 83 to 13%, while Democrats view him unfavorably 17 to 81%. Independents are in the middle at 48% approve, 46% he said, or disapprove, he added. The results come in as heavily armed federal immigration agents stormed through the Big Apple last Tuesday, targeting migrants with warrants for murder, kidnapping, and other heinous crimes. And it also goes into some of the details as well about this. So this is a really interesting development because, of course, 41% approve. Trump is still disapproved of in the state of New York, but it is the highest he's ever gotten. And when, of course, being a politics and elections channel, I look at this through the scope of the state of New York in 2024, where Donald Trump against Kamala Harris lost the state 56% for Harris to 44% for Trump, a 12-point win. And you may be wondering, okay, well, Harris won it by 12. What's the big deal here? Well, for that, let's look back at 2020. Let's look at the state of New York in 2020, where that time it was 60.9% to Trump's 37.7%. So, quick math here. What's this? This is going to be about a 24-point win for Biden in 2020. And then in 2024, for Biden in 2020, and then in 2024, it was down to a 12-point win. So New York is supposed to be a very safe Democratic state, voting well over the 15% margin of victory, and yet Harris only won it by 12 points in 2024. And Trump, despite still being disapproved of in the state by about 15 points, 41% to 56%, the momentum and trend is clearly on Trump's side and the Republican side on his approval ratings, which may suggest the overwhelmingly safe Democratic state of New York could potentially, if the trend continues, become a likely Democratic state in 2026, the midterms, and then we'll see what happens going into 2028, the presidential election. So this is something that I think Democrats may scoff at and say he's still disapproved of by 15 points. But the writing on the wall here is kind of very interesting that Trump is getting more popular in a very safe Democratic state. And the question is, well, what does that mean for other states? If a state like New York shows Trump gaining ground, is that true for states like Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, three very close battleground states that Donald Trump won? And in neighboring New Jersey, which just voted for Kamala Harris by 6 points over Donald Trump, is Trump's approval rating growing high here as well? Of course, this is all speculation because we only have the New York Times or the Siena Research poll to go off of, so it really only applies to New York. But is this an overall conversation we have to monitor for the next few years? Is Trump's approval rating in these Democratic areas getting stronger? And while we're also here, we can look at some of the polling numbers for Donald Trump in the Siena's history, where, as it mentioned, January 24, Trump was around 37%, and leading up, he was around 37% the whole time. He did get up to 41% in February 2025 now, which is the highest he's been, but he has not broken 30% in any time between 2024 and 2025. As for his vice president, J.D. Vance, right now he's at 34%, which is still 34% approve, 51% disapprove. That's also the highest Vance has had as well. So it's clear for right now, Trump is still massively more approved of in the state of New York than J.D. Vance is, which does lead to some questions about how Vance would do in 2028, but it says something that at very least, in a very Democratic state, Trump is gaining more support than he's ever had before in such a blue liberal area. And it could have something to do as well with some of the other parts of this poll. The right track right now in this poll was 37%, which again is still disapproved of by 20 points. But let's look at the history in 2024. It was around 30% to start the year. Going into the summertime, it was still around 30%, and even dipped below back to 28% in October. And now, as Trump has taken office, it's up to 37%. And again, this is in the state of New York. These are New Yorkers that were in this poll. So this is a liberal Democratic state that should be a safe Democratic state at the presidential level. And yet, it does seem Trump is making some inroads, going up about 7% or so since, at very least, November, the election. So Trump is certainly getting a little bit of a boost in this Democratic state and in this Democratic poll. And it is also interesting that looking at the state of New York, is New York on the right track or not? 36% of people believe it's on the right track, and 50% believe it's on the wrong track. And that gets into an overall greater conversation of, well, who's to blame for this? It's a Democratic state with pretty much total Democratic representation. How do the voters feel? Well, they did ask about the governor, Kathy Hochul, and her approval rating, and right now in this poll, she's at 39% favorable, 47% unfavorable, 14% no opinion. So this is another conversation about New York. Are New Yorkers starting to shift a little bit and become more favorable to the Republicans? It's a speculation because we're not going to know until the next election if that happens, but Kathy Hochul is up for re-election in 2026, so we may get our answer sooner than later. Is New York shifting from a safe Democratic state to maybe a likely Democratic state, or is this just a one-off poll? It's all smoke, and the Democrats will regain their big numbers in New York. It's a lot of questions and a lot of directions this could go, but this poll does show some very interesting findings, both for Trump and for the Republicans and Democrats overall in the state. And I honestly believe in elections like this, obviously, Donald Trump brings a lot of people out to vote. 2026 depends if he does a lot of rallies. Maybe he'll make a bigger play for a state like New York, where he won't have to run his own campaign all the time to run for others. Could New York be a potential sleeper for something like maybe the governor's map, where right now there's about 18 Democratic governor's races? I'll fill these in just to have the total number. There's 18 Democrats and 18 Republicans in the Democratic state of New York right now. Maybe Republicans seize an opportunity and try to make the New York governor's race more competitive than it is. Obviously, I don't think New York is going to go red as of now, but what if the Republicans make New York close? Would the Democrats have to spend considerable resources, and maybe New York is down to lean Democrat or likely Democrat? That plays overall into the Republicans' favor, because that allows Republicans to maybe spend more money and go on the offensive, and the Democrats have less money to spend in defending states like Michigan, Wisconsin, Kansas, Arizona, and then maybe even try to expand the map into states like Minnesota, like New Mexico. I think Josh Shapiro will win Pennsylvania, but maybe that becomes a target too. So there's a lot of implications in this poll, if this trend were to continue, of a very blue state becoming more favorable for Donald Trump, even though he's still disapproved of by a pretty sizable margin, 41% to 56%. There's a 15% gap. This is a very blue state, which I think Democrats at very least need to be wary of. So I think this is a very interesting video. I'm interested to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. If you think this is interesting, if you think this is a significant development, or is this something to scoff at and nothing really too much of a concern for the Democrats? I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to give it a like and click subscribe so you always get notified when I post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video. That will do it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to give it a like. And if you really liked it, please remember to click the subscribe button. And make sure you turn post notifications on so you always get notified when I post a new video. That way you never miss one. Also, please remember to share this video with your friends and family if you really like the video. And remember to stay tuned, because I'll be posting at least one video every single day leading up until Election Day, so I'd really appreciate it if you keep coming back and watching those videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.